November 5th is Election Day, this coming Tuesday, and Gilmer County has a special election to replace Post 1 Commissioner Dallas Miller resigned, and that left an open seat. So again, November 5th is Election Day. There's 5 candidates that are running in this race, and we're going to talk to one right now. I'm your host, BKP, and I'm here with Al Cash. Mr. Cash, how are you today?
I'm outstanding. Thank you, sir.
Let me go, let's do a little couple quick things that I always do with every candidate. Now, this particular one, this is Post 1 for Gilmer County. There's 2 things. Because of the special election, you did not have to identify like a primary, a party. Would you care to identify a party at this time? Because you don't have to identify your party when you sign up for these kind of elections. So are you a Republican or a Democrat?
I am a Republican, sir.
Okay. So that being said, tell me why you're a Republican. What is that to you? Because I will say this, every candidate, I ask that question because in North Georgia, sometimes somebody runs on a Republican ticket knowing that's the only way in with a 78% Republican vote. So no disrespect, I ask every candidate, what makes Al Cash a Republican and why are you?
My preference for the Republican Party is that I believe in our government and our government structure, our Constitution and all of its amendments 100%. My personal opinion is that the Democratic Party tends to waver from that. I prefer the stronger, more solid, traditional perspective of the Republican Party.
When you first got word that Dallas Miller, former Post 1 commissioner, had resigned, why are you running? What was it you thought, hey, I'm going to run, make a difference? Why is Al Cash running for this post?
Well, I knew the county had specific issues. 3 of them particularly appealed to me, and I felt with my background that I would like to be a part of the solution. I could be a part of the reconstruction, for lack of a better word, of the direction that we were headed with these issues. And those were the things, along with some soul searching and conversations with my wife, that convinced me that I need to be part of this.
Okay, you said 3 things. So what are your you narrowed it down, and I know there's others, and not that you're glossing over them, but on the 3 issues you just brought up, what are those 3, and what are the solutions? Because you said you want to be a part of the solution, so highlight those.
Well, my first concern, my first interest and concern is with the current issue with the United States government reducing the budget for our parks nationwide, which obviously affects our Carter's Lake access and its parks. I'm an avid outdoors person and have a specific interest in retaining not only the parks and access to the lakes, but the income that's generated from the visitors that come here on an annual basis and how it benefits Gilmer County. That's the first issue. My solution to that is the discussions that we're having with the U.S. parks right now are ways for Gilmer County to assume certain expenses and maintenance out there and maintaining the parks. So I would like to have input to that. I would like to know that Gilmer County is being protected. I'd like to make sure that our budget is protected. And I'd still like to be able to hike and camp out at the parks.
So are you in favor of the county assuming the operations at Carter's Lake that the Corps of Engineers is going to, release here soon? Are you in favor of the county taking those operations over?
That's a pretty broad statement. I am in favor of it to the extent that that our budget is not affected, that we have no negative impact on our budget. Understanding that there are still questions to be answered on what does the public provide in return for their payments out of the park, and what is the cost to the county, if any, in maintaining those parks without a negative impact on our budget.
So, but you are very firm that whatever, I think it may be generally a lot of people are very interested in keeping Carter's Lake like it is. I can see that, but you're very firm in whatever we do, it doesn't impact the budget.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you would not see anything where we increased any spending to operate Carter's Lake over and above what was brought in?
My primary objective would be to assist the Army Corps of Engineers out there without it affecting our county budget.
Okay. What was the second issue?
Second issue is the pool. We've been following the pool since that came to pass. And in the last couple of 3 weeks, the existing commission has determined that sites that we had available to us were not exactly conducive to relocating the pool. The current school of thought is to dig out the old pool and put the new one in right where it is now. And that's what I'm in favor of.
You do that when you say pool, just for citizens out there, that's plural. They have 2 pools planned. On their plans, there are 2 pools on there.
Are you referring to the main pool and a wading pool?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
There's 2 pools. So there was some talk about putting it out at Clear Creek.
Yes.
And I think some public sentiment through social media, as I've read all of it, some of them were like, why are we going all the way out there in the county? So that wasn't real popular with some.
Right.
Then there was the field over here, Soccer Road or something like that, where
Yes.
across the tracks, right, where the soccer fields are.
Right.
And that wasn't conducive. So now they're looking at putting the pool right where the old pool is now.
That's my understanding, yes.
Now, is that, you're in favor of that?
I am.
You're in favor of that. Have you looked at the cost on the pool, or do you support that revenue that maybe some say could go elsewhere, going to the pool right now and building that pool?
The revenues that have been set aside already, I'm aware of some. I'm not aware of future efforts to secure more funds for the pool, but the bids that I understand at this point, we already have the funds available for. That's my main reason for supporting the current position of moving or rebuilding the pool exactly where it is. The cost effectiveness of purchasing land and excavating to put a new pool in versus what it's going to currently cost to dig out the current pool and replace it with the pools is it's cost effective for the county.
So you support building the new pools?
I do.
Do you support building both of them at the same time, or one and then the second one? Because the first one is a lap pool, also indoor heated facility that seems to be more tailored to just certain groups in the county, and the entertainment of the wading pool is the second part. Do you think they should build both of them, or one and then the second one a year later, or what do you see there?
I'm not familiar enough to know how the costs would be separated from one pool to the other, so let's call it the main pool to the wading pool. If there's not enough money to do both at the same time, then I would support building the main pool first and then the wading pool afterward. If the monies are already there, and because the bids are accepted, I have no problem with building both pools at the same time.
All right. So you said three issues that were at the forefront of your decision making to run for this office. when making your decision. So Carter's Lake, the pool, what's the third one?
Third one is our roads and ways. Mostly because of public opinion, roads seem to be one of the top issues in the county. I come from a background that did what we called workflow studies. Workflow studies involve determining how work is being done, what are the best ways to make it more efficient, and what are the best ways to make it more cost effective. I feel with that kind of background that with the current methodology we are using to attack our road problems, that it appears to be a bit disorganized. I'd like to organize, prioritize the conditions of the roads and how we attack repairing those or replacing them if necessary. And obviously in a lot of instances, these roads are not even paved, and some of them need paving almost immediately. That needs to be prioritized, and the workflow to have that done needs to be ironed out and followed.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. So you gave me the three: Carter's Lake, pool, and roads. Now I don't want to generalize. You correct me if but those. Am I correct? Roads and maintenance in the county. So those are the three. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Prioritize them for me now. You said which one's number one, which one's two, and which one's three based on the finances of the county. So the county has X amount of dollars. We'll just use a hypothetical X amount of dollars, and it can only be spent in a certain way, and you have to pick a 1, 2, and 3 to spend the money on. What are your priorities?
My first priority would be roads. And I say that because we have a little time to spare on the Carter's Lake issue, and the pool. My guess would be that, and I am just guessing, that pool construction would likely not start until after the winter. So roads would be the quickest and easiest to attack. We've discussed, the county commission has discussed bringing together a town hall meeting to bring our citizens in to try to determine which roads have the worst and the most needs. And that would be based on community input, people living out there on these roads, to say, here's what conditions that are around my house and access to my house. This is what I see. And then we get that feedback from the community, and that could be studied and prioritized from that information.
Let me ask you a question. County's in a lot of debt. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't want to look backward. There's a difference in looking backward and going back. I don't want to go backward. Okay, there's a big difference. But sometimes you have to look backward to go forward. And that being said, and I want to ask you point blank, for property tax payers in this county, there's now 1.5 mil on the citizens. The property tax, the property owners in Gilmer County have 1.5 mil on their taxes just to service the debt.
Yes, sir.
That's a line item alone. 2, would you, if elected, look for a way to alleviate at least $500,000 of those taxes? Would you make a commitment not to raise taxes and not to do anything to put the county in further debt? I know those are 3 areas. We can back up and break each one down. Right now, there's talk that there's 1.5 mil, and there is enough revenue, SPLOST revenue coming in, that the $500,000 could come off. That's an opinion.
Yes.
Okay, but it is based on the revenue coming in to the county. So, would you commit? And maybe you can't do it immediately, and maybe you won't be able to do it. But would you commit to looking at a way to alleviate at least $500,000 off our property tax in the county on that bond debt? And where do you stand on any new taxes or raising taxes? And I guess the last one, I'll give it to you. You can go all the way around them. And will you commit not to putting the county in any further debt?
All right, let's start with your first question and remind me which one that is.
$500,000. We're on $1.5 million. The
Right.
if you own property in Gilmer County, you're paying
Yes.
$1.5 million to service the debt, which is a little over $4 million payment a year. We have enough SPLOST coming in to make that payment, but we wouldn't have a lot of capital revenue to
Understand.
use. But half of that mill, which I'm going to say just general, a mill in the county is like 1.2 million. So a half a mill is like 600. So it's almost 1.8 to $2 million that property taxpayers are paying in the county. You see where I'm going?
Yes, sir, I do.
$2 million. Well, $600,000 if it could get backed off, at least $600,000. So would you look at removing the half mill that was put on in this administration?
I would be very happy to take a look at it and understand it and make the decision based on the actual accounting principles of whether removing that half mill is feasible in view of the fact that our department heads are asking for considerably more money than we had anticipated in our budget. So my gut reaction off the top here is it doesn't look promising, but I would promise to look into it and see if I could find a way to reduce that extra millage.
Okay, what about new taxes? What about new taxes? Would you see a way? Do you see a way to where you would raise taxes? That you would vote? You can't raise taxes by yourself. That you would vote to raise the millage rate or raise taxes in this county?
My opinion is that our millage rate and our taxes are as high as they need to be. I'm not supporting any further taxes or millage in this county.
Will you commit to not, or what is your opinion? I probably shouldn't frame it. Would you commit? What is your opinion of the county going further in debt? If there's a project that comes up and there's an opportunity to finance that project that somebody wants to do, would you say yes or no to further debt in this county?
My first impulse in answering your question is I can't see us going in any further debt right now. There's too much of it. Our citizens are still in an uproar over the current debt that we have, and to increase that or to take on other projects that we haven't even completed yet, that's not on my book.
Let's say capital projects. How will you look to handle capital projects? Would you look to have general contractors build them? I'll say this: Gilmer County right now, and I'm not taking any administration to task. They got to answer for this. But Gilmer County, in the past and present, has struggled with being able to build a project that may seem to cost a lot of money. Currently, we built a fire station in Cherry Lock, $354,000.
Yes.
Fire station. My opinion, and I want to be clear because that should be fair to the audience out there, is
Okay.
Gilmer County doesn't do a very good job of building things at a price that the citizens could afford. That's my opinion. Building capital projects like the pool, like other things that may be coming up, are you more in favor of getting bids outside the county or letting the county act as its own GC?
If my opinion is that letting the county act as their own GC is less expensive. I would want to know and see that the people that are doing the work as our own GC are qualified at every level and follow all the rules of the building codes that are applicable to that project.
And in clarification to any viewer, I understand there was a GC on the Cherry Lock Fire Station, so I don't want to imply anything. Okay, you brought up three things. Tell us a little about you. We jumped right into some things. Let's back up. We talked about Carter's Lake. We've talked about the pool, and we've talked about roads and bridges. Before we get back into that for closing, tell us a little bit about you, Al. Where you're from, a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, I'm an Air Force veteran. I did 4 years active and 2 years reserve. I'm an ex-police officer. I started in Washington, D.C. in the late 60s, and then I spent 10 years with the Orlando Police Department. I was a detective when I left that department. Went to work for State Farm Insurance in 1982. Worked for them for 30 years. My first 15 years were as a claims adjuster, and I specialized in handling third-party litigation claims. And my second 15 years was as an IT guy. Now, people sometimes think IT means strictly technical, but the I stands for information. And that's a reference to my earlier conversation about being involved in what we called workflow studies. When we would travel around the state and determine how jobs were being done, if they were being done effectively, was there any overlaps, were there any gaps, and we made suggestions on how to smooth out that workflow and to make the workflow more budget effective. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Martha. We married in 2002. We got married on a schooner in the middle of Tampa Bay. But when we came close to the end of my career at State Farm, we bought our house up here in 2006, and we intend to live out our whole days here. We love it.
There's a lot of areas. The circle, I call it the circle, and I understand the circle. We have our agritourism. How do you feel about? We have our agritourism. We have the full circle here. Do you feel we're headed in the right direction in trying to grow jobs and the progress needed here for Gilmer County to sustain the future? What do you think about economically in the county, and maybe something we should do or we're doing right as far as you're concerned?
With respect to the agritourism, as I mentioned in one of my previous talks, that's kind of a new buzzword, and I actually like it. My understanding and view of Gilmer County is that Gilmer County is doing very, very well. I like its growth. I like it for two reasons. First of all, because it's very moderate. It's growing at a moderate rate. And second of all, the growth that's coming in here is good growth. The chain restaurants that we're seeing up here, we get a lot of visitors, and they go there a lot, in addition to our famous restaurants down on the square. The other agritourism specialty that I'm particularly fond of are the vineyards. They're a beautiful addition to our county. They provide great products to what our culture truly likes, and the revenue that it brings to our county, it does nothing but good. I like everything that I'm seeing in this county. I just want to make sure that as it grows, it's measured and tempered as it goes along, and that none of this growth takes away from our ability to stay within our budget.
I can't give you a hypothetical. It just wouldn't be fair, because I have watched over here for 10 years now, planning and zoning. As a commissioner, you sit in a position of taking recommendations from your planning and zoning and making final decisions. There are several times they've come to the commission and maybe somebody opposed a vineyard, one case after another, and I'm not just singling that out. Have you looked at some of the planning and zoning? And like I said, I can't give you a hypothetical, so a general answer: are you prepared to sit and take everything into account when making decisions in planning and zoning, and how do you see that?
Well, I'm going to go back to my previous statement regarding the workflow studies. In answer to your question, absolutely. I'm a fact finder. I've always referred to myself as a king of research, and I'm a terrible fact finder. I'm a huge Facebook fan, and stuff that I see posted, you take with a grain of salt anyway. But I research just about everything everybody posts to make sure that there are facts, because some of the stuff is good and I like to share. I share positive things. And before I share those, I fact check those as well. So I would research every aspect of a plan, a thought, the construction, the location, and how it affects our economy and our budget.
And I'm going to make this my last question on the subject and give you a chance to close. But I'm just using a window of 10 years. And in the past 10 years, small business and what we went through in 8 and 9 and 10, and our business community here, we had no choice but to band together. And I will say this, we had no choice but to band together, not be ugly at each other, and give the lead, my opinion, to our chamber. And our chamber, these are opinions of mine, okay? Yes. Our chamber has done an outstanding job in the last window of 10 years of economically what we've gone through to have to keep this ball rolling. Mm-hmm. Now, my support for the chamber, and I do, again, we're in opinion area, but my support for the chamber is just this. They are the circle of economic growth through private industry. And I support that because we want to bring business, we want to bring agritourism, we want to bring people to spend money. When they spend money, we get splost money and hotel motel tax. So I think they're the best, to me, economic engine in the county. All right, to keep things going. So I guess with all of that, do you support the chamber, and would you support continuing a contract with the chamber?
And you're referring to the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I would call them that, but it's the Gilmer Chamber. I mean, yes, the Gilmer Chamber.
Okay. In response to that question, I support them 100%. I follow their sites. I visit them. I like what they do. They have a wonderful staff. They're organized. The material that they put out to the public, not just locally, but actually goes out statewide and even region-wide. I like it. I like what they do. I like their workflow. I'm very happy with them, and I would support them 100%.
Would you look at the budget, and I'm not to put you on the spot, but an open question, would you look at the budget and see about maintaining the revenue that goes to the chamber for them to continue to work the way they do? So I guess what I'm saying is do you, without looking, you can't make sometimes a solid answer, but would you commit to not cutting their budget and keeping a contract with them? And I will say this, there has been talk in the past of ending the contract, and that's the only reason I bring it up because there's 3 on the commission, and there's, you're either the deciding vote or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yes, so it's very important that maybe some people know where you stand on the contract continuing with the Gilmer Chamber, and also keeping them enough revenue to market our county.
I would support that. It's difficult without numbers to commit to more or less than what we are budgeting, but I'll repeat myself. They would have my 100% support. And from my understanding at this moment is to support them at the level of income.
My apology, folks. I did set an alarm to make sure we stayed on focus. So my apology, Mr. Cash. Go ahead.
I'll make it brief. I support the chamber, and I would support them within our budget. And I have no intention of reducing what's budgeted to them now.
Okay, let me say this. First of all, I appreciate you coming in.
Yes, sir.
And I want to give you this opportunity to talk to the voters, whatever closing statement you would like to make to tell the voters, or whatever you want to say to close right now, have at it.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here and to discuss these matters with you. My parting statement would be that I've always been a fair and honest person my entire life. I have based it on the word integrity. I stand by that. That's the legacy that I intend to leave my children and to leave Gilmer County. And I would ask for your vote, and I promise you that you'll have that integrity every day that I'm in office.
Mr. Cash, as we tell every single candidate here that comes in, we wish you well, and we thank you for your willingness to serve your county. All right. Hey, folks, we have had this opportunity. You put the information back up there for me. Election day is November 5th, okay? And that is early voting ends Friday, November 1st. And we want to say that I appreciate, and this is the way we do all of our interviews, Mr. Cash told us 3 areas that of biggest interest to him in making his decision to run. We explored those 3 areas. We went around those 3 areas. We talked about some finances of the county. And our goal here is always just to get you the most information and meet these candidates. Again, Mr. Cash, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this interview.